My parents gave my sister a $400,000 gift for her wedding. They promised to cover my expenses, but then they surprised me by sending me a bill 2 days afterwards. I paid them and stopped talking to them, but now my sister is shouting outside my door. I didn't have a close relationship with my parents, but it wasn't terrible either. They always preferred my sister Sarah, but I got used to it. Sarah, who is 32 years old now, was always the preferred child, while I, at 28, was accustomed to receiving less attention than her. She had better clothes and got more attention, while I wore used clothes and worked part-time jobs since I was 16 to buy the things I wanted. I didn't say much. I understood that my parents didn't need to provide me with more than the basics, and I felt proud of being able to take care of myself. The great surprise was when Sarah got married 3 years ago. Her parents gifted her and her husband a significant amount of $400,000 for their wedding. They used the money to buy a beautiful house in a nice neighborhood. At that time, I felt genuinely happy for her, even though it was a little painful. I had my own stuff going on. I was doing well as a computer programmer, had saved a lot of money, and was in a relationship with Tom, who later became my husband. I believed it would be my chance, and I didn't pay attention to the fact that my parents always gave more to Sarah than to me. In the end, it caught me off guard. Let's go back to last year when Tom proposed to me. I was very happy. We had been together for a long time, and he was everything I was looking for in a partner. We had a basic wedding to save money for the future. Neither of us wanted to spend all our money in one day, even if it was a significant occasion. We had planned to spend around $36,000 on our elegant wedding, which we thought was a reasonable amount, not too extravagant. I was shocked when my parents offered to pay for the entire wedding. I was touched. It felt like they were finally recognizing how important I am. They seemed happy and curious, asking about places, people who help, and showing a genuine interest in providing support. I didn't pay much attention to how much there was. I believe they had supported Sarah greatly, so perhaps they also wanted to assist me. I didn't expect them to give so much for Sarah, but their offer to cover the wedding costs was very generous. The wedding day was amazing. We had a small and comfortable party with our family and friends, exactly as we desired. My parents spoke, danced with us, and looked truly happy. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally being treated well and valued. Tom and I were planning to begin our honeymoon next week, but we had to complete some work assignments first. 2 days after the wedding, my dad emailed me. It wasn't a pleasant message or a card for a wedding gift like I had expected. Instead, they were given a thorough list of expenses in a PDF file, displaying all the costs they had paid for the wedding. The email was short and not friendly. Please solve this quickly. Your mother and I are waiting for you to pay promptly. I stared at the screen in surprise. The total amount was $35,463.89, which covered all the flowers and appetizers. I felt like someone hit me in the stomach. Tom noticed me sitting there, not moving at all. When I showed him the email, he got really mad. It wasn't about the cash. We can cover the cost if needed. But that wasn't the main point. My parents had offered to pay for the wedding. I didn't ask them to pay for anything. They approached me, gave me a gift, and were excited to assist with the organization. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. This was not just about the money, but also about many years of feeling less important than Sarah. When she got married, they gave her $400,000 as a gift with no conditions attached. They never asked her to give back any money. They were basically asking me to pay for my wedding as if I were taking out a loan. It felt like all the emotions from many years of unfair treatment had caused this one mean behavior. The next morning, after talking with Tom all night, I gave my parents all the money I owed them by writing a check and sending them a letter. I didn't want to speak to them in person because I knew I wouldn't be able to manage my emotions, and I didn't want the situation to turn into a loud argument. In the letter, I talked about how much I was hurting. I told them that I have been taking care of myself since I was 16 years old, while they were providing everything for Sarah. I said that when they offered to pay for the wedding, I thought they were expressing the same love and care they always showed my sister. Instead, they took me by surprise. I didn't think twice. I told them that for a while, I had not paid attention to many things and had never talked about how they treated Sarah and me in a different way. But what I couldn't stand was this unjust trickery. They made me believe they were giving me a gift, but later asked me to return the favor as if I were not their daughter. I also mentioned that this would be the final time we deal with money. After that, I chose not to accept any more assistance, backing, or presents from them. I made it clear that I didn't want anything from them later on, not even any inheritance. I told them they could give everything to Sarah, as they had done previously. I sent the payment and a message by mail, and I blocked their phone numbers. I needed space. Tom agreed with what I chose, and I felt better after sending everything. But then, they stopped talking to each other. For days, I didn't hear anything from them, which made me even more determined. After that, the messages from relatives started coming in a lot. Family members and friends who live far away began calling and texting me, telling me I was not grateful and too dramatic. They said my parents had supported me a lot, and that I was making things seem worse than they were. Sarah also phoned me, yelling because she thought I was causing issues in the family. She said I should have just paid the bill without saying anything. Sarah was always there for them. Why wouldn't she do that? I haven't responded to any of them. I have nothing to say. I feel that I did the right thing. After being treated poorly for a long time, this felt like the final straw, and I wanted to protect myself. But I also wonder if I am overreacting. Am I making a big deal out of this? Was it a mistake for me to expect that they would celebrate my wedding as they did for Sarah's? Should I have just agreed, paid the bill, and moved on? Tom's family has been very helpful during this time. His parents were very surprised when they learned about what my parents did, and they had been coming to see us every day. However, the many messages from my family are starting to wear me out. I'm not sure if I chose correctly. Did I make a mistake? Should I have tried talking to my parents before choosing to stop talking to them? Was it correct for me to set a limit after many years of feeling like I wasn't appreciated as much as Sarah? Now, I am really stuck, and I am not sure if I am the one who made a mistake. I think I had the right to be mad and protect myself, but I'm afraid I may have created a lasting separation in my family. Maybe I should have handled the situation differently. Do you have any ideas or suggestions? Update 1: Things have gotten even worse since my last message. I didn't realize that sending the check and letter would lead to so many consequences, but that's the situation we find ourselves in now. Yesterday morning, when I woke up, I got an email from my mom. It happened because she used her work email, which I hadn't deactivated yet. The email was long and full of arrogance. She mentioned that the invoice they sent me should not be considered important. She mentioned they had not intended to put the check in the bank. She mentioned that it's all about learning to manage money responsibly. They wanted to see how I would respond. They were going to destroy the check and give me a $100,000 gift as a wedding present once they believed I had understood. I couldn't believe what I was reading. What is a lesson we can learn from life? What type of parents deceive their grown-up daughter in this way? After reading that, it became even more obvious that it wasn't about love or fairness, but about control. They wanted to test if I would refuse or just follow orders without questioning. It felt like a way to have power and cause harm. Without hesitating, I used my phone to deposit the check. I wasn't going to let them ruin it after this lesson. I wanted to cash the check and explain to them the consequences of their actions. After my mom sent me an email, I promptly replied shortly. I made it straightforward. Thank you for confirming that this was a planned test and not a mistake. After I sent it, I also blocked her work email. I expected more people to try to reach me, but I didn't want to deal with any more games or supposed lessons. Later that night, things became even more exciting. Sarah came to my apartment without giving me a heads up. She started hitting my door and calling my name loudly. I didn't answer immediately. I was hoping she would leave, but she didn't. Instead, she started shouting from behind the door, saying I was being childish and exaggerating the situation. She said that our parents were helping me learn to be responsible because they were worried about how I managed my money. Sarah's comment really upset me. This was the woman who never paid her own phone bill, never worked without my parents' help, and still had the audacity to give me advice about handling money. While she continued speaking loudly, I quietly started to record everything with my phone. I didn't know what would happen next, but I wanted to have proof just in case things got even more difficult. Sarah kept saying that I was creating issues in the family over a small matter. She suggested that I apologize to our parents and move on. She said they never wanted to hurt me and always tried their hardest for both of us. She continued to insist that I was overreacting and that I was to blame for everything that occurred. I didn't reply. I did not unlock the door. I was silent, feeling really mad. Finally, after a very long time, she left, but not before saying I was selfish and accusing me of wanting to break ties with the family because of money. After she went away, I stayed silent for a while, feeling the weight of everything. Sarah's sudden outburst of anger just proved what I had suspected for a while. She would always stand by them, no matter how unjust or hurtful their actions were. That night, I received more messages from family members. It looks like Sarah couldn't speak with me, so she went to my parents, and now they are preparing to assist. My phone was full of messages from my aunts, uncles, and some family friends. The majority of the messages I get are alike. People say I don't appreciate things, accuse me of causing unnecessary issues, and suggest I apologize to my parents for my behavior towards them. One message caught my attention. It was from a family member I hadn't talked to in a while. He told me I was lucky to have parents who cared about teaching me important things, and that I should be grateful that they were willing to spend a lot on my wedding. She ended the message by saying that I was lucky to have parents who cared about being involved in my life. I was surprised by how quickly everyone began to go against me. It felt like everyone supported my parents because they were wealthy and powerful. No one noticed the emotional tricks or the years of showing preference that had occurred before this. All they saw was that I was rejecting my parents' help, and that was enough for them to take the other side. At that moment, Tom started to worry about how this was affecting me. He kept recommending that I take a break from social media and set aside my phone for a while to find some peace. He tried to comfort me by saying I had not made any mistakes. He reminded me of all the times my parents had favored Sarah over me and how they always used money to manipulate us. The most frustrating part was not being able to find any straightforward answers. My parents did not attempt to provide further explanation. They truly believed that their version of events was accurate. They saw themselves as parents who were not being understood and were simply trying to help. I was the unthankful daughter who made things seem worse than they were, and I started to consider if I should have behaved in another way. Maybe instead of sending the letter and stopping communication, I should have spoken to them in person. But I was familiar with how those conversations typically unfolded. They kept altering things until I felt compelled to apologize for getting upset at first. It was a habit I had been stuck in for a long time, and I wasn't sure if I had the energy to go through it again. Anyway, right now I am concentrating on the life Tom and I are creating together. At the moment, all we can do is wait and wish for things to get better, I guess. Update number 2. Hello everyone, I wanted to start by thanking each of you for your responses. Reading what you wrote, your ideas, and your personal experiences really helped me comprehend. Lately, I have experienced many emotions, and your help has meant a lot to me. Even though I have been trying to stay strong, the situation has changed suddenly once more. A few days after Sarah visited me, my dad's brother, my uncle, gave me a call. I hadn't spoken to him in a while, and honestly, I didn't know what to expect. He has never been very close to the family, but I thought he was hinting that I should make peace with my parents, like everyone else has been doing. Instead, what he said surprised me and made me see things in a completely new light. He started by saying that he learned about the situation from family members and wanted to reach out to me because it seemed like my parents had done similar things in the past. 20 years ago, something similar had occurred between him and my father's parents, my grandparents. My uncle didn't like how they acted dishonestly, so they told lies about him to the family, claiming he attempted to take things from them. He said that back then, my dad did not help him. He really helped their parents, which led to a major argument between the two brothers that was never fully settled. My uncle said that he always felt like my dad had abandoned him, and it took him a long time to understand their family dynamics. Hearing him talk about the past was like listening to my own story, but in a different setting. My grandparents had used money and tricks to control my uncle, just like my parents are trying to do with me now. As he kept speaking, everything started to become clear. My parents were acting differently than usual. They were following a pattern that began before I was born. They learned this behavior from their parents. My dad, who had helped his brother in the past, was now behaving like me. My uncle also said that not doing what my grandparents asked had serious results. After the argument, my grandparents stopped helping him altogether, both financially and emotionally. They depicted him as the different one in the family, and to this day, some family members still believe the untrue tales that my grandparents shared about him. He explained that everything was about having power over him. When they couldn't control him anymore, they removed him from their lives. Listening to my uncle's story made me shiver. It felt like I was experiencing the same thing at this moment. My parents were angry because I didn't want to join in their idea. Instead of trying to understand my perspective, they turned the whole family against me. I started to understand how powerful this negative behavior was and how much my parents thought they could control their children. After talking with my uncle, I couldn't stop thinking about all the things he had told me. It made me wonder if deep down my father did things because he felt guilty. Maybe he understood that he had abandoned his brother a long time ago, and now he was trying to justify his actions by repeating the same behavior. My parents thought that Sarah and I had to do something to thank them for their relationship with us. Whenever we didn't meet this expectation, they thought we were letting them down. As I continued to ponder, it became evident that this was not about me. It was about them, their unresolved issues, and the harmful behaviors they learned from their parents. After that, my family kept sending me more messages. It was clear that Sarah had been working extra hard to get people to turn against me. One of my cousins, who I have always been close to, sent me a long message telling me that I am selfish and disrespectful for not valuing all the things my parents have done for me. She said there was enough time to fix the problem. However, I had to acknowledge my error and apologize before it was too late. Her message used the same words as everyone else's, and it was exhausting to read. I found out that I was raised in a family where love was not given freely. Everything had requirements, whether it was receiving money, feeling comfortable, or simply enjoying a special event like a wedding. Now that I had chosen not to obey them, I was being left out and left by myself, just like my uncle. After my uncle called, we sat down and talked for a long time about what will come next. He said that we will overcome this situation together, and I don't need to feel like I owe anything to anyone, not even my parents, Sarah, or the other family members who were giving their opinions without being asked. He has always been there for me, and I am very thankful for that. Even though Tom is with me, I still feel a little uncertain. My parents had made me feel emotional, and I still wondered if I was to blame. Was there a way to solve the problem without compromising my boundaries? I spent a long time thinking about whether I could find a way to make things right without harming my mental well-being. After that, something strange happened. My dad left me a voicemail. It was the first time he had tried to reach out to me personally since I had sent the letter. His voice sounded changed. He didn't appear angry or controlling like I expected him to be. However, he appeared very tired. In the message, he said he didn't want to fight anymore and was willing to talk if I was also open to it. He didn't apologize or acknowledge what had happened, but it was clear that something was different. Maybe he was starting to realize that this time I wouldn't quit. I haven't answered yet. I want to contact him again to see if we can have an honest conversation about everything. But another part of me believes that this could be another attempt to intentionally make me feel bad. I can't stop thinking about my uncle's words. They will never admit they are wrong because they think they are correct. If I decide to talk to my father, I should be prepared for things to remain unchanged. Right now, I'm still trying to figure everything out. I have a lot of things on my mind at the moment stuff. My uncle said, messages from my family, and a voicemail from my dad. I don't know what to do next. I wish my parents could change and begin to view me as their equal, not just as someone they can boss around. I know that repairing the damage from years of mistreatment will take more than just talking once. Currently, I am handling things one day at a time. Tom and I have been focusing on our lives and making plans for our future as a couple. We are trying to build a healthy and positive relationship, unlike the harmful habits we picked up from our families. However, we are still not sure. Am I doing the right thing by not giving up? Am I pushing away the only family I have? Even though I really want a clear answer, I am still in the same situation. I still don't have a clear answer, even though I really want one. And maybe that's okay. I will keep you updated on any new information, but right now, I am doing my best to deal with this situation. I want to start by thanking you for all your responses. Your advice and support have been crucial as I navigate this tough situation with my family. When I first talked about my ideas, I wasn't sure about where I was headed or what my goals were. But after reading what you said and reflecting on it, I have gained some valuable understanding. One thing that stood out to me in your responses was that many of you pointed out that I have been making a lot of effort for some time to enhance my relationship with my parents, acting as if everything was okay. But I have accepted that it's okay if things don't go back to how they were before, because truthfully, I'm not even sure what normal was. I have always had a difficult relationship with my parents, and I have been avoiding thinking about it for a long time. Now I understand that it's fine to stop expecting things to turn out exactly as I wish. Many of you also mentioned that I may have been too understanding in assuming that my dad was guilty. Reflecting on the past, I understand that I wished my dad's behavior was due to guilt and that he could change. You are correct. His actions are not justified, and the years of manipulation, favoritism, and emotional control are not excused. Even if he regrets it, that doesn't erase the harm or free him from being responsible. However, I also realize that I need to find a way to bring things to a close. I need to move on from this chapter of my life, whether or not I reconcile with my parents. So I decided to visit my dad. I felt like I had to do it for me, not for others, to find peace. When I saw my dad, I quickly realized that he was not the scary person I remembered from my childhood. He appeared tired and beaten, and for the very first time, he looked apologetic. He didn't say "I'm sorry" directly, but he apologized for what happened at the wedding and how my mom and Sarah had treated me. He also said he talked to some of our family members and asked them to stop bothering me, which made me feel a little better. But then, he did something unexpected. He attempted to give back the money. He gave me back the check I had given him to cover the wedding expenses and asked me to hold on to it. He mentioned that he and my mom discussed it, and they wanted to resolve the issue. But at that moment, I was prepared. I clearly told him that I would not be accepting the money again. I explained that it wasn't just about the money. It was also about everything that had happened in the past, how I had always been treated as less important, and the emotional impact it had on me. I said to him that getting the money back wouldn't fix the issue and that now it's not only about money. I could see he was unhappy when I refused the money. It was as if he had nothing more to offer me. I think returning the money was his way of saying sorry, but it didn't fix the deep-rooted issues that had been getting worse for a while. He didn't realize that the harm couldn't be fixed just by writing a check. After I refused the money, he didn't say anything for a bit, and then told me he didn't want to lose me. He said he understood that things had gotten very serious, and he didn't want our family to fall apart. I could tell he was trying to tell the truth, but I realized I wasn't trying to fix things at that moment. Not the way he wanted. I didn't want to return to the past or act as if everything could suddenly be fine. What I needed was some space, a real break from the unhealthy cycle that had defined our relationship for a long time. I told him I needed a break from the family for a while, and that even though the meeting was important, it wasn't that significant. I mentioned that I was not ready to forgive and forget yet. I explained that I needed time to heal in my own way. He didn't argue with me, which was surprising. He just nodded and said he understood. He didn't try to convince me to come back or tell me I was overreacting like he did in the past. In a way, that was more like apologizing than any other words he could have used. After the meeting, I felt a mix of strange emotions. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't relaxed either. I thought I wanted to find closure, but it's not as easy as we hope. There was no obvious answer, no big resolution or emotional breakthrough. It was just finished. I had said everything I needed to say, and now it was my time to continue. Since then, I have done some things to stay relaxed and content. I have talked to some more family members who were bothering me about the issue, and now Tom and I are focusing on building our life together without the family problems. It's nice to have some time to unwind. However, there is still a part of me that feels uncertain. I believe I did the right thing by standing up for myself, but it's still tough. At times I wonder if I could have done things differently, or if I should have given my parents another chance. But then I remember all the times I felt like I wasn't good enough, and I remind myself that I deserve better things. Sarah has not reached out to me since the meeting with my dad, which I anticipated. I believe she is still upset about what happened, but now I don't want to fix things with her. She has made it clear who she is loyal to, and I have accepted that our relationship will never be as good as it could be. I'm okay with that now. Letting go of the thought that we could ever be close was difficult, but it has also made me feel free. I am not sure what will happen next with my father. He seemed really sorry for what happened, but I'm not sure if that's enough to fix a relationship. At this moment, I will focus on myself and my happiness. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that I need to start putting myself first. I will do exactly that. So I guess that's how things are right now. It's not the ideal ending I hoped for, but it's the ending I needed. And sometimes, that's all that is needed. I want to thank everyone who has been following and supporting me. I appreciate it a lot.